Do you think you don't have enough time to work on a side hustle or business? Are you not sure how to best spend the time you do have? I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. When I started my business, I had 4 children, 3 fur babies, and 2 jobs. But yet I found the time to start and grow a thriving business. And now I want to help you to do the same. Listen in as Janine and I share how you can use 15 hours a week to build your business. And the best part is, we will help you to find those 15 hours. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. So today we're going to talk about how to use 15 hours a week to build your side hustle or your business. So this is a concept that I first learned about from Dan Miller, and he talked about using 15 hours a week to build your side hustle if you are trying to go from employee to entrepreneur. And it's something that I really like it because it kind of breaks it down. He talks about using 3 hours for reading, studying, and gathering new knowledge. That's about 20% of your time. Using 5 hours for creating content, such as working on your book or your course or your coaching packages. That would be about 33% of your time. Using 4 hours a week on directly working with your clients, and 3 hours a week for marketing efforts, just building your brand and building your reputation. So Janine and I are going to talk today about how we did this and how we now coach our clients to do this. So Janine, I'm going to let you start off.
So what we're going to do, I'm going to start with my business and when I started off, what I was doing. And then I'm going to throw in what I also should have been doing to grow even faster. So starting with that 3 hours of reading, studying, and gathering new knowledge, I would definitely do a lot of audiobooks and a lot of podcasting, like listening to podcasts, because I would listen on my way to and from work on either of those. So I have like a 20-minute commute. So obviously 40 minutes, 3 days a week would give me well beyond my 30 hours or 3 hours, because I would also listen on walks and such, washing dishes, whatever it was, those mindless activities you do at home. What I could have been doing or should have been doing, I should have invested in a course and had that all just given right to me instead of just trying to find the answers everywhere. How about you, Deanna?
Wow. I think we didn't know each other back then, but we were doing a lot of the same things. So I was listening to podcasts on my commute. So when I was still working outside of the home, I had a 2-hour commute every day, an hour each way. And it was basically podcast university. I would just listen to the podcast or I would listen to an audiobook. When I started working from home, the time I was using walking the dogs, that was, a good 45 minutes to an hour a day. So I was definitely getting in more than 3 hours a day. As far as what I should have done, I would agree with you with courses. And I would also say if I would have had a coach, I think I wouldn't have had to listen to so much because I would have known what to listen to. So I was just listening to every single thing I could find, if I even thought it might be of value or not. And I think I probably clogged up my head a lot with things that I didn't need to know. So now I believe in just-in-time learning. So if I'm going to be doing something, I want to learn about what I'm doing and then do it and use it right then. But that time I was just learning about everything that I might ever need to know in my business. And it was really kind of clogging things up. I see you shaking your head.
Yes. So I totally agree with that. And there's a point where I could see it stopping me from moving forward, from just learning everything and getting like overwhelmed and whatnot, that I've even adopted your theory and used that just-in-time learning talk to students like in my course, because it's so much information and they get like analysis paralysis. You're just like stuck and you don't know what to focus on next, that you just go, okay, well, what am I doing right now? I want to do my portfolio. So I'm going to go to my portfolio lesson. And I agree with you 100%. I also should have had a coach, but I didn't know where to find anyone. And I would just do the same thing like you, like look on podcasts and go small business podcast or writing podcast and just try to find whatever was out there, even if it was way over my head at the time. So I think too, just thinking about those 3 hours a week, like where can you fit those in? We said to and from work, like our commutes, walking the dog, whatever. You could also do it like 30 minutes at night before bed. If you're reading a new book or you're listening to a new book right before bed, put it on and listen or read to calm yourself down anyway. And then you're also learning at the same time.
Yes, so that takes us to our 5 hours of creating content. So working on your book or your course or your coaching package or whatever you're going to be selling on your writing that you're doing. So this right here for me, what I did was I was writing a book. So I spent a lot of time content creating. I'm just realizing now how much time I spent per week while I was still working full time because I would spend an hour every day. I got up an hour before my kids did because that was the only time that I could do this. Most people think do it after work, but my brain was dead after work. Like after that commute or after working all day and making all these decisions, I had decision fatigue. My brain was tired. I wasn't able to do it. Plus, I had other responsibilities like making food for the kids, making sure their homework was done, helping them with their homework. So by the time that I was done with all that, I was realizing that I was just staring at the dock and just not typing anything, and my brain was dead. But when I got up early, and I am not a morning person by any way, shape, or form, but when I made myself get up an hour early and put that hour in, it was amazing how much got done. But then on top of that, so that would have been 5 hours if I would have just got up Monday through Friday. But then on the weekends, Saturday was my day where I would put in usually between 4 and 6 hours of steady work. And then sometimes Sundays too. And sometimes I would give myself a break on Sunday. Janine, how did you do this?
So building my business, creating content, whatnot, even for my clients, when I was a freelance writer, I did the same thing. I would get up an hour earlier before work and write some pieces for clients before I went into work. And you know what it did for me? It like it made me excited to do my business and then like, oh, now I have to go to work. Like I would realize like, oh, I really really do like doing this and then have to pack it up and go into work and I would be like, man, I wish I could just sit here all day and do this. So it made me really excited. When I wrote my book, I also did the same thing. I would take that hour in the morning before the kids woke up or before I went to work to do the work on the book. And with the book, I got to a point where I was like sick of writing the book. I like didn't want to do it anymore. It was actually towards the end where you would think you'd be excited to do it, but I wasn't. I was just like, oh, I gotta do the book again. But I would force myself in those mornings to do that. Also, when I was doing my course creation, I did all of the transcripts or points I needed to do in my videos in the morning before work. But then I would wait for my kids to go to school and I only recorded my videos during the day because I didn't want my tired voice on my like, hey guys, welcome to the next lesson. Be all tired. So I did know I had to have my energy, a little higher for the actual video recording, but I created all the content itself in that hour in the morning, always.
So, Janine, you bring up a couple really good points there. One is for anybody who wants to write a book, you hit the wall. And everybody, right now, I'm helping. We have a publishing company now, among the many things that we do, and I'm helping some people to write for the first time. And everybody goes through it where you're like almost done, and you're just like, you don't want to even look at the book one more time. And everybody goes through that. But having that routine where you just get up in the morning and you do it without even thinking, that's what gets you through. When you know, like, this is what I do every day at this time, this is what I do, it really helps you to get through that. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. And one thing I kind of wanted to bring up that we've done and we've noticed too is, so Janine and I, along with Avi, we do some coaching. And when we have our coaching clients, one of the things we noticed is they just want to create their content. They want to get that thing, whether it's the coaching package or the book or the course or whatever they're doing, they want to get that thing made because they think that that's what their business is all about. One of the things we caution them about is making sure you're doing all of these and you're balanced, because if you create the course, but you didn't do anything to brand it or market yourself, or then you basically have nobody to sell it to. So Janine, what you want to kind of expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, that whole build it and they will come theory. Yeah, that doesn't exist, unfortunately. But you have to do some of the marketing. But I forgot to do in my 5 hours creating content, working on book courses, coaching packages, etc., the thing that I should have been doing. And I'm trying to think of what that could have been, because I really think that waking up in the morning really did it for me. I guess there isn't anything because I created what I needed to create.
Yeah, I think we both kind of nailed that one. I think we nailed that one. And on the flip side, though, there are people who spend a lot of time just creating, but then there are people who just spend a lot of time only reading, gathering new knowledge, and they never implement that. So any of these, and there's other ones that they just spend a lot of time marketing and they don't know why they're marketing, but they're on Facebook and they're marketing and they've built a great brand, but they have nothing to sell. So they're never going to make any money with it. So as we go through each of these, that's why doing all of them is important and having a goal to strive for. It doesn't have to be exactly this amount of time, but this is a good formula for success. Okay, now I'm going to let you read the next one.
Well, just to piggyback off that, I think people do a lot of that, the reading, studying, gathering new knowledge. It's actually a trend out there now that I keep seeing is like, don't just keep reading all these business books or listening to all these business podcasts or whatever you're doing. What are you doing to implement all these things? Because I tell you, I have a whole bookshelf of books that I'm like, oh, that was really good. Oh, that was, and I really should be going back and looking and going, all right, now I need to actually implement this, because what's the point of reading if you're not actually going to do anything about it? All right, so moving on to the 4 hours of working directly with clients. So I would do this when I first started out. I would actually connect with my clients or follow up with clients a lot on my weekend or day off, or sometimes if I had time in that morning before the kids woke up, or I would even check in at my lunch break if I had one at work to just say like, hey, just, following up, see if you guys got my last email or contract sign or whatever, just to check in. And how about you, Deanna?
When I see this one, I was always like, did I do that? How did I do that? I don't think I did that. But now I'm realizing that I did. So one of the things that I did right away was start an email list, because I had heard that during my 3 hours of reading, gathering new knowledge, I had heard that was very important, that you needed to have customers and you needed to have people that were on an email list that were following what you did. So at first I was like, I don't think I'm really doing that. But then I realized I was, because I was putting all the information that I was reading and I was writing on a website so that I could reach people. And I wasn't working directly with clients, but I was in a different type of a way. And then I was also sending out an email once a week, or maybe even a couple times a week. And so that was me. And they would email back and we would talk and we would email back and forth. So it wasn't really working with clients, because of course, when you're writing a book, you don't have a client to work with, but I was working with the people that would eventually buy my book, and the people that would tell me whether I needed to work on something else, whether something that I did was on point or not on point, and all of that. So that's what I would say there. Now, let's go back to what could we have done differently? Did you think of anything?
So working directly with clients, what I could have done differently. Oh, let's go back to another episode we did on delegation. I would probably have a VA gather the emails that were important and who I need to respond to so that I can batch it in about 15 minutes and be done with it. How about you?
Yeah, thinking back, of what I could have done differently, I think I could have spent more time actually engaging with those people. It was, they were quick emails back and forth, but I don't know that I actually spent the 4 hours a week doing that. And even though everything went well and it went really well, actually, I think I could have actually built more relationships, even maybe a little bit stronger, if I had spent a little bit more time on that. But looking back, I'm perfectly happy with the way things worked out, but that's probably something that I could have spent more time in if I wanted to.
So our last one is those 3 hours of marketing, building your brand and your reputation. This one, I think for myself, I started with the social media side. I was writing things to promote myself as a writer, and I put that out on like LinkedIn and my website and whatnot. So that's where I delegated. I delegated social media because this was taking too much of my time and I needed to focus in on other areas. I also would use, downtime anywhere I had to check in on Facebook groups or see what I might have missed somewhere else to where somebody might be looking for a writer. So marketing for myself, that's probably where I would do the most. Or pitching. I think that kind of falls underneath this marketing effort. So I would actually, when my son was little and went to preschool, if I didn't have any pieces to write at the time, that would be like my hour of power to prospect a ton of clients. So I would go to our local library. Like I had a choice. I could either drop him off at preschool, drive another 20 minutes home, boot up my computer there and do all of it and then drive 20 minutes back. Or I could just take my laptop with me, go down the road for five minutes down the road, set up in the local library and go from there. And that's exactly what I did. So you also have to kind of think about sometimes, where do you have downtime, right? How long are you in the line for your kids' school, picking them up? How long are you just sitting? There's times where you just notice you're sitting, and you can usually make progress there by connecting with people on LinkedIn or whatever. So what would I have done differently in the marketing efforts to build my brand and reputation? I probably would have delegated the social media sooner than I did.
So my marketing efforts at the beginning was really my email marketing, like getting people onto my email list, and SEO as far as putting stuff on the website every couple of days. So I was constantly getting SEO, but then I also would put stuff on LinkedIn. And that was something else that I did. One of the things that I think marketing, we make it sound so big and bad and scary, but I like relationship marketing. So like it kind of working directly with clients and the marketing efforts to me at that point in my business was kind of the same thing, because I didn't have like a publisher that I was trying to get or anything like that. So for me, it was pretty much the same thing. But what's great is it's one of those things that you can do while you're picking your kid up, like Janine said, at the school line, and you're sitting there for 20 minutes, and you can go on Facebook and you can look in the groups that are where your people are, and you can answer questions that they may have. You can also at lunchtime just be sitting kind of scrolling through Facebook and answering questions and doing those kind of things to kind of build a relationship, answering emails that people send, all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't take a lot of really, it's not like you have this to schedule out on your calendar. This is my 30 minutes that I'm going to use for this, or my 3 hours that I'm going to do for this. That's one of the ones that they've made it so easy with apps on our phone and all of that for us to really kind of do that here and there throughout the day without having to set a timer, unless you get lost on there and you can't get off once you get on.
That's true. And, I was just thinking too, when you mentioned relationship building, I wish, because when my business really started to grow was right when the pandemic hit. I should have gone to, and this doesn't really fit in the 3 hours, but I should have gone to a conference. I never went to like a conference in this type of niched area. I went to nursing conferences, but not, online space stuff. So that would have been cool to go to some and meet different people just face to face. And Deanna and I probably would have met each other a lot sooner.
Probably. That's where I met Avi. So, okay. So kind of recapping and going over this, I think I just want to make sure that we have spelled out where to find these this time. So I'm going to kind of go over these again. And this time I'm going to say when you might want to fit this into your day. So the 3 hours of reading, studying, and gathering new knowledge, we talked about that can be something that you do as you're driving back and forth. It could be 30 minutes at night before bed. It could be during your lunch hour. Because that's one of the biggest things we hear is, I don't have time to start my business. But we're going to show you where to carve out these times from. So the 3 hours, like I said, since I was commuting, it was really easy. If you're not commuting, are you walking your dog? Are you vacuuming? Could you have a course or something playing while you're doing that? Janine?
No, yeah, exactly what you said. And the 5 hours, when we're talking about creating content, working on your book, courses, coaching packages, an hour a week, we both said that this is exactly what we did before kids got up and before we went to work. That was the best time for our brains, because it was when we were the most alert. It might not be the same for you. You might have to figure out when your brain is most awake and you can do your most productive work. For us, it was in the morning. Even though Deanna says she wasn't a morning person, she forced herself and eventually got to that point where she was a morning person to be able to create her content.
Right. So this is something you can easily break it down into 1 hour a day for 5 days a week, and you hit your 5 hours. Or you could do it on the weekend. You could just take a Saturday and say, okay, on Saturday, I'm going to take 4 hours, 5 hours, and I'm going to just work on that. Then we go into working directly with clients. That's something easy to do on your weekend or your day off. As nurses, we're kind of lucky if you work a 12-hour shift and you have that extra day off during the week, or, you're working your 3 days. Janine?
Yeah. And then with your marketing efforts, we said 30 minutes at lunchtime, jump in a Facebook group, whatever you have to do. If you do that 30 minutes at lunchtime, you'll cover those 3 hours pretty quickly. So talking about some action steps, we kind of gave you that right there. But I think the biggest thing for you guys to do is to write down at the top of a piece of paper, 15 hours, and look at your week this week, because we all know nursing schedules are weird and it's not going to be the same every single week. But start to look at your week this week, do the 15 hours, write down the 3 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, and 3 hours, and fill in what you're going to do during each of those areas and see how it works out this week.
Absolutely. And treat this time that you're putting in there like it's really precious time. So like if something happens, like your alarm doesn't go off, so you don't get your hour in, figure out where you're going to get it in later. Like this is something that you have to kind of really make a priority. So if something happens, try to reschedule it. Try not to skip it if you can. And I think one really important thing we want to leave you with today is make sure you're, even if it's not this exact formula and this exact 15 hours, make sure you're hitting all four of these every week, at least a portion. So like Janine says, write down in each of these categories, what do you need to do? And then when are you going to do it?
Because like you said before, with coaching clients that we've had, it's often where we're kind of stuck in one area. And that's what we help people with, is looking outside that area of just creating content. Well, how are you going to get it out there? And how and when to focus on the next right thing.
If you need more help finding time to start or grow your business, check out episode 68 titled A Guaranteed Way to Save Time at Work, Home, and in Your Business. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please share it with a friend or colleague who you feel would enjoy it. Thank you, and adios from beautiful Puerto Aventuras, Mexico.